Hey y'all, welcome back for another episode of Women in White Coats by MD Tribe. This week we have Dr. Erika Montes, who is a board certified OBGYN practicing in Phoenix, Arizona. She went to medical school in Texas. She is Mexicana, and I'm just very excited to share with you all of her journey as I am learning myself. She's very passionate about women's health and everything in between. So without further ado, here's Women in White Coats by MD Tribe. Another episode of Women in White Coats. Today we have Dr. Erika Montes, one of the people that I randomly connected with on Instagram, but turns out to be one of my favorite people ever. So I'm really excited for y'all to meet her. So without further ado, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Erika Montes and I'm a board certified OBGYN practicing in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. So can we go ahead and do a little bit about your background? Can you tell us where you're from, where your parents are from, where you grew up, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm like technically second/third generation because my grandmothers were born in Mexico, but my grandfathers were born in the States. And my family is originally from El Paso, Texas. So shout out to all my Texans out there. And I was born in El Paso, but I grew up in Dallas and I would go home every summer to El Paso. And that's kind of how I kept my Spanish up and everything, talking to my abuelitas. So that was perfect. But I went to undergrad at the University of Texas at Austin. So hook 'em horns. And I went to med school at UT Health Science Center in San Antonio, Texas. And then I met my husband in San Antonio, who's also a physician. And he's from California. So he's like, we're going back to California, Erica. And I'm like, no, I don't think so, buddy. I want to stay in Texas. So we compromised and we really don't know anyone here in Arizona, but 8 years ago we made the trip and we found great groups that we joined initially and we've been here ever since.
Awesome. I actually didn't know your husband was a physician.
Yeah, he is, honey. Everyone always asks him, are you an OBGYN too? And he's like, hell no. He's like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. So whenever I say vagina, he's like, shut up. But he actually did PM&R, which is physical medicine and rehab. And then he did a fellowship at UT Southwestern when I was a fourth year chief resident and OBGYN at Parkland. And that he did it in pain medicine. So he basically does a lot of injections and interventional procedures and things to help patients with chronic pain.
Awesome. Oh, so cool. Okay, so that kind of leads me into my next question of I'm a strong believer that people have a life outside of medicine. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not in clinic?
Yeah. So, I have 3 young boys. Their names are Lionel, and he's 6. He's in first grade. He's in his little class right now here at home. And then my middle son is Ramiro, and he's 4. And then my baby is Maximilio, or Max. We call him Max, and he'll be 2 in November. So, I think being a doctor mom, I have to kind of split my time between, doing, clinical things and then, doing things like this, because I really think, helping, the people coming up behind me is very important. But, a lot of my time is spent with them. We hang out a lot outside. I like to read, but I don't get to read as much as I used to. I know we were doing that book chain, so we so Nathy's reading the Henrietta Lacks book right now, but reading, just hanging out by the pool. I really don't have like hobbies other than I guess my blog writing, but I just kind of do a lot of things with the boys, have fun with them, just things like that.
Awesome. And I'm actually halfway through the book, but
Oh, you are nice.
with the classes like picking up, I'm like, okay, one chapter a day, one chapter a day.
I know. That's a good way to do it. Just split it up. Right now I'm trying to read Love in the Time of Cholera, which is like it's not a book in regards to medicine. It's just like a I guess it's like a top 100 novels of all time. So
Oh,
I'm
cool.
gonna see how it goes, and then I'll let you know
Awesome.
if you have time for extra reading.
Right, right. Okay, so now that we kind of learned a little bit more about you, can you tell us kind of how you found yourself pursuing medicine and why you
Yeah,
decided to go into that?
sure. So, growing up, my tia was a nurse, and so, I kind of, and my mom worked at the hospital. She wasn't a nurse or anything, but she did work in the department called volunteer services at a local hospital. So I kind of always was like around the hospital or at the hospital, and so medicine kind of sparked my interest that way.
Mhm.
And then when my middle sister was born, she actually was born with a not a completely formed ear, and so she ended up having to have multiple surgeries throughout her childhood. And as her older sister, I vividly remember those times and everything that my family went through during
Mhm.
that period. And I kind of was there at the hospital with her, and I helped my mom like take care of her afterwards and things. So I think that was really an impressionable moment, as a young child, seeing how the doctors were interacting with my family and things like that. And so I think that kind of also sparked my interest. And then when I went to undergrad, I initially started as pre-nursing because I was scared. I was like, I don't think I can be a doctor. I'll just be a nurse. I mean, not like just because they're awesome and we need them and they're amazing too, but I was like, I don't know anyone who's a doctor. I'll do nursing, and that's great. And then I started my classes in nursing my first semester. And after like a month, I was like, I don't like this. I hate this.
Yeah.
And it just I kind of evolved from there.
Okay. And I'm a super strong believer of like, we need representation in medicine. And how did you figure out that, when you decided that nursing, excuse me, wasn't the career for you, how did you decide to switch over to becoming a physician?
Yeah, so I basically, I called my tia. She's like my supporter, and I was crying to her on the steps outside of my dorm room, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, you know what? Look, you barely started. You have time to switch, because that's what I was nervous about. I was like, now I'm gonna be in school like a lot longer, and it's gonna be more money, which those are things like you have to think about as a student, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to like my counselor the next day, and I was like, look, this is what I think I want to do. And thankfully, they didn't give me any pushback. There wasn't any kind of anything. They were supportive of me, which was amazing.
Mhm.
And so I basically I finished the semester, and I think one or two classes counted towards like a biology degree, which was good. And I caught up by working or by doing classes at the community college in Dallas over the summer when I would come home from Austin to Dallas. And
Okay.
so I ended up being able to graduate in the 4 years. But I think when I was actually taking the classes, like the OChem and the chemistries and the bios, I was like, okay, this is more what I wanted my college experience to be, even though obviously it was tougher, it was harder classes, but
Yeah.
it was more what I was expecting and what I wanted. And so that's when I knew I chose the right field. And so that's kind of how I transitioned over.
Okay. What was your experience like applying to medical school?
As far as applying to med school in Texas, they have a nice like kind of system, and I'm not sure if they still have it, but I think they do, where you match. So like you apply to all the schools, which at that time I believe it was like 7,
Mhm.
and then you basically like see who accepts you for an interview, and then they rank their students and you rank your schools where you want to go, and then the computer system kind of like matches you up. Do they have that in Florida?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So yeah, it's awesome though, because it's like one big, I think I'm just assuming they still have that, but it's like just one big thing where like you just kind of, it's easy because it's all in one system. And so that's, that's how it was. And I mean, as far as being like a, an underrepresented minority, I was scared because, like I said, I never had seen anyone or knew anyone that was a doctor when I switched over to medicine, or from nursing to pre-med. But I had a good group of women that were a part of my sorority called Kappa Delta Chi. It was a service organization that was mainly composed of Latinas. And it was funny because they were all switching from pre-med to something else. And I was going from nursing to pre-med, and they're like, what the heck are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna see what happens. And so I don't know, it just ended up working out, and they supported me. They're like, you got to go study, get out of here, do this, do that. And then I ended up meeting one of my dear friends, and who's a nurse actually. And she helped me along the way. And I think just they were all Latinas, and them supporting me and helping me and just kind of pushing me to do it
Mhm.
definitely helped. And then the support of my family as well. But it was scary. I mean, I was like, no one in my classes were, rare, and there was hardly any Latinos in my classes. And UT Austin is a huge university. We have like
Yeah.
500 people in OChem, and it's like, yeah, like it's huge. So you're like, okay, I hope I make it through this this maze of people.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, somehow one day, by by my, I guess, hard work and a little bit of luck, it happened. So that was awesome.
Well, that is awesome. So you kind
Thanks.
of went through like a match process before the actual match. So what was your experience like applying to residency?
So residency, so in 4th year, you guys will see that, you're encouraged to try to go do like away rotations at the programs that you're considering going to for residency. And I always wanted to train at Parkland just because I'm from Dallas. Parkland is a well-known institution. It's one of the biggest OBGYN programs in the country. It's amazing. There's actually a new hospital that they opened up a few years back. I didn't get to train at the new hospital, but all the residents love it, and it's a beautiful facility. And basically the way that it worked is I did only an away rotation there because I really wanted them to get to know me, and kind of, I wanted to get to know them to make sure I wanted to go there as well.
Yeah.
And so basically they kind of sent me like a little under the table note, saying, hey, if you rank us high, then you got a spot here. And it's 20 residents per year there. And so getting into residency, I thankfully got my first choice. I didn't have too many obstacles, but I think it's because I focused in on the place I wanted to go to, and I put like all my time and attention into them. So then they were like, okay, she's really, committed to us. She really wants to come here. And so that's kind of how it came about.
Oh, awesome. And at what stage in your medical like career, your medical training, did you know that OBGYN was the specialty for you?
So I did get to kind of shadow a doctor like in my early college years, who actually just ended up being an OBGYN like randomly. It was kind of like luck, I guess.
Mhm.
And I got to go with him on deliveries and be with him in his office. My mom knew him through her working at the hospital.
Okay.
She kind of would always talk to him, and he was actually a Latino physician. And she was like, hey, my daughter wants to go to med school. Can she shadow you a few days here and there? He's like, yeah, that's fine. So I would go hang out with him like in the summers and over like winter break. And so I guess that experience really pushed me, or kind of gave me like that little extra edge into OBGYN, or wanting to do that.
Uh-huh.
And then when I did my third year rotations, I kind of put it to the end of the year because I was like, let me see. I'm gonna keep, I'm not gonna put my blinders on. I'm gonna see how things go. And so I did like all the other stuff first, and then I did like OB and then peds last. And I just knew it was for me. I mean, I love the clinic aspect, but I love, of course, the surgery part. Using your hands is something that, if you want to be more of a generalist, that's great. And the great thing about OBGYN is you can go into so many subspecialties, which are amazing if that's like your passion. I ended up just loving like a little bit of everything, so that's why I didn't end up doing a fellowship. I think the great thing about OBGYN is, there's women's healthcare is fascinating. And so that was one thing. And then also being able to do surgery, and then also having like a wide range of things that you can get into depending on what your passion is. And so that's why I love OBGYN.
Oh, so cool.
Thanks.
I really like OBGYN too, but I'm always like, I don't know, everybody always is like, they work so hard, like they are always on call. So I'm always like, ah. What do you have to say about that? Like, do you feel like you're on call a lot?
I think if you find like the right group,
Mm-hmm.
and you like, which, obviously you never know if it will happen, right?
Yeah.
Because this was just luck or random. I mean, so I'm not with the first group that I joined when I moved here with my husband from Texas. They were on the west side of town, and we wanted to live like a little bit more on the east side of town. And so that group was like OB heavy, which means it was like we were delivering a lot of babies. It was super, super busy. It was kind of like a second residency in a way, but it was good because it was, I was an attending coming out of residency, and you're on your own. And, I would be doing like forceps or something. And I would say in the back of my mind, Dr. Andujo's right behind me. He's telling me I'm doing it he's doing that. I'm doing it good. Because I would have to like psych myself out. Like, okay, when you're doing stuff on your own for the first time, no one's watching you. It freaks you out a little bit, because you're like, I hope I'm doing it right. I hope this is this, that you got to think about everything. But so they were like a super OB heavy group, and so I knew that ultimately I wasn't gonna stay with them, because I did like gynecology a lot as well. And so it was kind of like, I got to find a good group that's better for me.
Okay.
And then I ended up finding a new group that I'm still with currently, and I would say we do kind of half and half. So that's something you have to like, ask the partners, like, how many OBs do each of you deliver a month? Are you guys like, which way do y'all sway? Like 50% OB, 50% GYN, which is kind of what I'm at. I would say I'm a little even more GYN. We joined call pool with another group, and so we're on call like 1 and 7. And I mean, it's hit or miss. We are off the day after call, so that's kind of like something you're not always going to find.
Okay.
But if you're willing to take a little bit of a pay cut to have a better quality of life, you're going to be able to find it. You just have to find the right people to go in that group with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's hard. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, right? But it's not like you can't have a family and you can't do extra stuff on the side and have fun and travel and all that. I think it's very doable. You just have to find your tribe, like your people who are going to help you and help support and move your family along. That's really what it comes down to. If you're not close to family, which we're not.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that your husband's a physician also. How do you guys manage, if you guys are both busy?
Yeah. So here's the other thing. Like, if you think you're going to end up with someone who's in medicine or that married to medicine, I mean, you really do. Obviously, if you love them and they're a neurosurgeon, it's like, well, I'm going to be with a freaking neurosurgeon. They're going to be like super, super busy, right? But being with my husband being in pain medicine, he actually doesn't really have call.
Okay.
And so that's perfect. And his clinic, he's just more like Monday through Friday, regular clinic hours per se. So that was a blessing too. But we just have our two ladies that help us with the boys. One, she helps us. One is our nanny, and she comes like every day, Monday through Friday, from like 7 to 3 p.m. And
Okay.
then we have another girl from Colombia that lives with us. It's an au pair company or an au pair agency, which are girls that come from other countries and they live with you, kind of like an exchange program. And
Okay.
so a lot of physicians have au pairs and they live with you, and they're just amazing, and they help you a lot. So that's something you just have to look into when if you do have a family and all that, and it'll work out.
That's so interesting. I've actually never heard of that.
Oh,
So
you never heard of that?
what is it called?
Yeah. It's called au pair, AU and then space pair, PAIR. It's a French name for like a nanny kind of
Hmm.
in French, but that's what it's called. It's called au pair.
Oh wow, that's so helpful.
Yeah, it's a godsend. Thank God we have her, because if we didn't have her, lady, I would be like,
Yeah. Okay, well that kind of leads me into like my final question, which is if anybody were listening to this that's pre-health or pre-med and wants to go into medicine, what two golden nuggets would you have for them?
that's cute. I know, I like that. Well, one thing I would say is, one of my main mottos is like work hard, play hard. You don't want to forget who you are, and you don't want to just be a professional student. You still want to keep your personality. You still want to keep what you love to do,
Yeah.
have fun and things. We get so caught up in like making the best grade and being at the top because that's what we're used to, right? Like that's kind of how that's kind of our type A personalities per se. But I think if you have a good integration between doing your best you can as a student, and also keeping your social life and your personal life up to date and things, that's definitely going to help for sure. And then Natalia's like, she's like, okay, I know I need to do that for sure. I think you do. So I think you have a good balance.
Uh-huh.
And then the second thing is, I think I guess this is more for like after you graduate, but just remembering that to use your degree to help others coming after you, or help to build your community, because as Latinos, we're underrepresented in medicine. If we represent and we show other women and men that there's other people who look like us actually doing what we want to do, I think we'll get more Latinos involved in medicine, and then it'll just it'll spiral from there. So I think we just need to always remember that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Thank you.
And I 100% agree with that, obviously.
Right, I know. And then things like this, it's like just taking a little bit of time. This is fun to me. Like, this is just something that I love to do, and I just want other students to know that it's possible, that you can do it, you can make it. I know there's girls out there who, like me, when I was switching from nursing to pre-med, I'm like, I don't know anyone though. Like, what do I do? Who do I ask?
Yeah.
And I think I did still never had that person, but somehow it just ended up working out. But now that there's things like this, and like more like social media stuff that's out there that's available, which wasn't available at my time when I was in your shoes. I
Hmm.
mean, we should use that to our advantage. Use it, reach out to people, say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And just be a mentor to each other.
Definitely. Definitely. So helpful. Thank you so
Thank you, honey.
much.
Yeah, it was fun. Finally we got to talk. It's
I
great.
know.
I mean, we talk a lot on DM, but not, like in person.
Yeah. Well, through Zoom.
Yeah, so there you go. That's what I mean.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it.